Oh, okay. I mean, do you want to start
That's
talking
all right.
about the hair, like everyday hair care?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
This is Christy Baker with University of Missouri Extension and 4-H. Today, we have some cow experts here.
Don't get your hands.
I can't help it. You know how I like to pet my babies at home. Well, cows are a little bit different, I'm learning. And we're here with Genesis Branham, our former Wayne County 4-H alumni. And this is her fiance, Chris Callum. Callenbeck. I knew I was going to butcher that. They are going to show you today how to fit and groom a cow to get it ready for that big fair season coming up. So, guys, I'm going to let you take it away, and I'm going to step out and
Thank you.
one last pat. Yeah.
Thank you. So every day we just want to start with what we normally do every day. We'll feed them in the mornings, catch them, take them to the wash rack. We rinse them twice a day just to help their hair grow, and it's so hot outside we want them to cool down. Usually takes like 10-15 minutes to rinse them, and then we do blow them dry every time we rinse them because you keep them wet, that actually makes them hotter. So we'll rinse them in the morning and we'll rinse them in the evening before we turn them out. We brush them, blow dry them. We put this Sure-Coat on them twice a day after we rinse them, and it just helps to revitalize their hair and just keep it growing. And
we
keep
put that in a
their hair-
spray bottle.
Yeah,
So
keep their hair healthy. We do shampoo them with this volumizer shampoo once a week. If you shampoo them too many times,
you'll take the natural oils out of their hair, dry out their skin. So we usually just shampoo once a week, and we do recommend shampooing the day before show day, but not on show day. You'll just do a rinse and scrub for show day.
But like when we brush them after rinsing them, we always brush the hair forward, everywhere on their body. Brush the hair forward. That's just gonna help the hair on show day. When you brush up, just helps that hair pop up.
And you want to be doing this, every day you work with this heifer so their hair becomes naturally trained to go this direction. Because if you wait till show day to try and implement, brushing your hair upwards and forwards, it's not going to lay the way you want it to lay. So this is something that's worked on every day.
And these are two different combs that we use. We really like this fluffer comb. It just helps to grab that hair and just pull that hair up and to train it more. So we use this brush all the time. This brush, this is what we use when we put in our pocket to go into the show ring. Don't use the metal ones because those will poke you in the butt. If it falls out of your pocket and the animal steps on it, it will stick into their hooves, and you do not want that. So this is for show day, or we also brush them with this one too, but we mainly use the fluffer brush.
So now we'll move into kind of fitting them. Let me show you some of the items we'll have that we'll work with.
And I just scratch her. We always scratch her all the time when she's standing here, and while somebody else is fitting, it just helps to calm her down, and she loves being scratched. And I mean, when you're in the show ring, you scratch them in their brisket, or you scratch them back here in their belly. So just always somebody scratching them all the time when they're in a shoot being worked on.
So for fitting, our preferred adhesive is this tail adhesive. It's the stronger style of adhesive made by Sullivan's Show Supply. They make a adhesive called Prime Time. It's a little bit weaker, and it's just not. It's good for beginners, but it's ultimately not as good as the tail adhesive. So once you get pretty used to fitting your heifer, I would definitely recommend swapping over to the tail adhesive. Like we said earlier, we have a few different styles of combs. What I've got is, these are both metal combs. This is your standard one. that most people probably have, or something similar to this. This comb is Teflon coated. You can use either one of these to fit with. As a matter of fact, you should only use a metal comb to fit with. I'm going to use a Teflon one because if you're familiar with the Teflon pan, it helps things prevent it from sticking to it. So this adhesive is really sticky, so it just slides through a little bit better. But you could use this other regular comb as well.
And also, before you fit on show day, you have to make sure that these legs are completely dry, completely clean. You don't want dirt anywhere on her before you fit, because then that gets in the glue and it will not come out until you rinse her later on after the show. So, and you want it dry so that that glue sticks to her hair.
You want to just test your can a little bit, make sure it sprays. We have like a little mat, whatever you have. You can just, I used to kneel on the ground all the time. It's a little hard though, so we got this. I usually comb through their hair just a little bit, make sure I get any knots or anything out. If there's any pieces of dirt that might still be stuck in. So you'll go from essentially the top of the hoof line. I usually do up to about the top of their forearm here. And you'll kind of pull this hair like up in that 45-degree angle, just like you did on the body. This lower hair doesn't pull up as well, so if you can't get it, don't worry too much about it. So you'll start off, you want to hit it up. You want to do pretty lightly from about a foot distance away, or the length of your comb away, with this adhesive. If you get too close, it's pretty much stuck on there. I mean, once it's on there, you can't take it off. So once you get too much, you're stuck. You're done with it. So you want to be pretty careful with this. So I don't know how well you can see, but you'll start to see the hair start to kind of pop off, pull up off of her leg a little bit. And what this is going to do is going to add more bone and width to her leg to kind of make her look a little bit beefier here. And you'll just kind of continue that up her cannon, and you'll try and get up on the front, kind of pull up a little bit straight line, so that it adds, just overall width and bulkiness to her bone, adds more bone to her, which is a positive in cattle. Now work your way up the leg here, and you'll see that this is a little wild looking, and that's okay if it gets a little wild, because you're going to follow after this and clip it off with some clippers and shape the leg. So essentially what you want to do is just get this hair pulled up in a pretty decent shape as best you can, but you are going to clip it, so don't worry about getting it to be the perfect shape on your first comb through. And you'll see that I maybe go back and hit up spots a few different times, because I decided, I wanted a little bit more hair to get pulled up right there. I just think it's kind of falling down a little bit, so it needs a little bit more spray. This little heifer, I know her hair is really good, but she does have some spots that are harder to pull up, usually on the front parts of her leg here, so they're the parts I usually have to spend the most time on, getting them to come up.
And when you're using the spray can, as you're watching him, you can see that he's not just fully just spraying it, holding the spray down. He's, kind of gradually spraying it, and not just all at one time, because otherwise you're going to get too much glue in one spot.
A little wet. Sorry. So hopefully your heifer's used to you kind of working underneath her, because you will be getting pretty close and personal with your animal for this process. So just always be careful and watch for her, or this steer. Watch for them moving their legs on you. You don't want to get kneed in the face or kicked or whatever. So just be safe when you're doing this. So I'll usually hit up kind of the inside front part of the leg as best I can, like while I'm on this current side, and then I'd also reach through and do the inside of this leg and I would pull it up and forward at the same time. And you'll notice, the more I put glue on this heifer, the more white her legs are starting to look. A little bit of a white sheen to it. So that's from the adhesive, and that's just the adhesive kind of building up on her hairs. It fades over time, so that's why you want to start this process fairly early. I would recommend to give yourself plenty of time, about an hour before you have to go in the ring. I would start fitting your heifer. But roughly, this is a done front leg right here. I'll show you how to clip it up here in a moment. I'm going to move you back to the hind leg real quick. Let me grab some paper towels and your feet on that.
But for the timing for the show, if you are not in that first class or the first 5-6 classes, you should really go up, watch the show, time how long that judge is taking on those classes, and that way that kind of gives you, if you say you're in the class 15, then you can time, okay, the judge is taking 15 minutes per class, and that way you can judge how long until you would possibly go into that ring, because you don't want her to stand for too long with the glue on before you go in, because some animals, if they're not used to being tied at home with their heads up and tied for a long period of time, they will lay down as soon as you tie them down or walk them into that ring. And then all the sand's going to get all over their hooves and their legs, and it's not a real fun deal after that. But we usually stand them tied when we're halter breaking them and through the whole process for 4 or 5 hours a day. Some people do a lot longer. We feel 4 or 5 is pretty good amount of time for them to just get used to standing with their heads up. That way when you walk into the ring, you can hold their heads up easily, they're not fighting you, and it's just a lot easier on everybody and the animal on show day.
So I've combed up the back leg here, and the back legs, people usually have preferences on which legs they prefer to fit, front or back. I usually do them all on our animals. But if this is a little bit different, you won't pull all the hair up and forwards. You'll kind of make there'll almost be a spot right in the middle of her leg. You'll decide, like, okay, these hairs on the front half will go kind of up and forward, and then these hairs on the back half will go kind of upwards and back. Because this hair right along the back side of her cannon will be kind of pulled outwards to, again, add that bone to her. So you'll start low again, kind of take nice long strokes, really work the glue through her hair. Yeah. So I'm not just doing one little bit of her leg at a time. I'm really working, all the hair. Stand up. She doesn't have much hair back here, so there's not a ton to work on her. But if you did have a lot of hair on the back side of this leg, you would pull it out, kind of away from the leg. We'll see if I can get enough hair on that to show you. And we'll pull this up, kind of into her flank a little bit. I won't do a lot of this longer, thicker hair here. I just want to kind of hit this front flank area up to kind of fill in this area, make sure it maybe look a little bit deeper here. But I'll do this area especially lightly. So as I get up into here, I'll try and keep my adhesive further away. I just want a light hold on this hair here. And we'll pull up kind of her hock, which is this back joint. I pull up a little bit behind it if the wind doesn't blow my adhesive away. And then what I do is, if I'm going to do I gotta do the back side of her leg here, I'll go ahead and come all the way behind her. Again, this is where you really want to make sure your animal is broke. You don't want this to be your first time back here, but I'll kind of do this from directly behind her. I'll pull this hair straight out, And this is to make this line kind of even with the point of her hock, going down, running through between her dew claws. She's kind of moving her leg in a weird spot for me. Thank you. And you'll kind of get the tip of her hock a little bit, and try not to get her tail too much, because we'll actually do something with the switch of her tail as well. So if I can avoid it, I will. But there wasn't a lot of hair there to mess with. And I like to, you'll want to kind of step back from your animal, get the perspective of the judge, and look at the legs and make sure you kind of hit up the major areas there. You want me to go ahead and do underneath there?
Under our belly.
There you want to do it.
This perspective from the judge, right, Chris?
Yeah, so kind of step back, the judge's perspective here. Just to observe what you've got going on with the legs, make sure you haven't missed any, big spots with hair. Because sometimes I'll walk around a heifer thinking I'm done and realize I missed like the inside of one leg or something like that. So now what we're gonna do is there's a spot underneath her here, right here in her flank. These long hairs here. What you'll do, you'll give them a little bit of a spray, and you'll pull these down and kind of out a little bit, and we'll come back with the clippers and trim those into a line, and it kind of adds a certain swoosh to her belly to really fill her in and make her look kind of even. Kind of gives like the right shape to the belly. Well, how would you describe that shape?
You want the shape to kind of be like a U shape-ish, but not too U looking.
It's kind of like just like if you could just add like a little bit like that.
Moon.
Yeah, like a
Yes,
crescent
yes.
shape. Yeah, a little bit of a swoosh
You want her
there.
to look fuller and deeper down.
But you don't usually need too much spray there. She doesn't have a lot of hair; it's really thin. So, you want to do her top? I'll scratch her.
So another thing that we do is all this hair on her tail head, we glue that, and then also all the hair on her back will glue up. That way we can clip it and make her back look straight across. So I'll just spray this and pull it straight up. We're trying to make this to where when her back comes, it's gonna come straight up to where she looks. So we'll glue all that and then come back and clip it. But you don't want too much glue on that, because if they switch their tail up there and flatten it down, then that's not a good thing. So on her back, I usually just spray it a little bit and then just come towards the other. And you're gonna do this along her whole entire back, because you want as much hair to stand up on her back as possible. That way you can try to fix any mistakes that are in her back. If she dips in one spot, you'll be able to really pull that hair up and clip it to where she doesn't look like she has a dip in her back. So that's key for trying to have hair on their back too.
Well, when you have people, that they're sitting there saying, well, we're not going to show our cows, or whatever. It's a good idea to do this if you're getting ready to sell them.
Yes, sir.
To go in a sale ring, they'll look a lot better, a lot cleaner,
Yes.
and bring you a better price, because everything overall is just like people in the stands that's buying it are just basically the judge at that time.
Exactly. So yes, selling, like we actually halter break pretty much all of the heifers that are born. Every time we wean them, we pretty much halter break every heifer, because whether we're going to show them or sell them as show heifers or just sell them as cows in general, we just go ahead and halter break them. That way they're tame, they're ready if you know, if some, you know, person that's just starting out showing needs a show heifer that's super tame or super sweet, we always have one that's just for them, and it's perfect for them. So, I mean, I recommend doing that if you're going to go into the show heifer business and have show animals. Just halter break them and advertise them as show heifers, and you should do really well because people are always looking for show animals all the time. Are you gonna flip? Yeah.
What's the difference between a cow like this and something that they can run down to the sale barn and buy?
So a heifer like this is one that, in the long run, she is different than your average cow that's out in your herd. She's one that was bred to be a show heifer. She's out of a bull that has had many show heifers that have been champions. So if you wanted to buy just a regular cow at a sale, they're not going to look as fancy as she is. But also for show heifers, you do want them to go out after they're done showing and produce a calf and be able to have good milk for that calf and live a long life of being.
When she says fancy, she means like, you know, not a lot of cows you see at your sale barns are gonna have this kind of hair in the middle of August, right? I mean, this is kind of a bred-in trait for like a show heifer. You know, you'll notice her neck is pretty clean. You know, no extra fat really hanging here through her throat latch. As it goes down to her brisket, there's not a lot of extra brisket there. Her neck is long, extended, kind of connects into her shoulder real smoothly up here. And, you know, that's what we mean just kind of by fancy. She's eye appealing. You're going to walk through somewhere and you're going to say, wow, that's a pretty looking animal. Mm-hmm. You know, is she always going to be the biggest compared to like a commercial cow? Not necessarily. But, you know, these cows are bred to be, you know, sound, and they're built to be square, big boned, big bodied animals. And a lot of times a commercial cow is not necessarily going to be that. A commercial cow will produce, they'll go out there and make you, you know, heifers, bulls, steers, whatever, but they're just not going to look as good. You know, they're not going to.
It is a whole lot like a halter horse.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, halter horses are bred to do that specific job,
Right.
just like the cows are.
Oh yeah, and it's not taking anything away from commercial cattlemen or seed stock producers at all, because that's another part of the business that is extremely popular. And like we don't just do show heifers. We have, you know, cows out there that we do breed that have numbers that we sell for seed stock producers, and we sell at the sale barn that are not just show heifers, because that, you know, that's what your show heifers are going to come out of, are those seed stock cows.
Those numbers are the EPDs.
Yeah.
So those are the expected progeny differences depending on what breed. You know, you'll have to learn about those. So now we're going to go and clip. I'm sure most of you guys will have corded clippers. If you don't have corded clippers and you're looking for some, we personally recommend the Wahl. These are the KM10s. These are really good clippers. I want to say they're $100 some odd, but you can usually find them on sale come like Black Friday. If you've been showing for a while and you're looking for, you know, your next step up, these Pulse ZR2s are what I'm going to use today. They're cordless clippers. So.
Cordless clippers are great because you can use them without having to worry about the cord, and like going into the show ring and you're standing there in the makeup area and you see a spot that, oh my gosh, that needs to be clipped. You just have the cordless clippers in your pocket. You can just bring it out and clip that spot. They are really, really handy. So we really like them.
There's a lot of different blade options. Most people will use your standard blocking blades or super blocking blades. You'll see here they have the pretty aggressive teeth on them. These are just standard 10s. We use those like on their necks and such, and on their heads occasionally. What I've actually got on there right now is They're the Blue Ribbon blocking blades. They're just blocking blades, but this is a Teflon coating to kind of help it go through the glue, because the hair with the glue on it will gum up your clippers, so you'll have to clean them fairly regularly. Anyway, after you've let the glue sit on there for about 5-10 minutes, because you want it to dry out, and depending on the humidity, it might take a little longer. Here in Missouri, it usually takes a little bit longer. You can start clipping, so this hair should hopefully just fall off pretty easily once I go through it. Again, depending on how well it's dried out. So I start at the bottom of the leg personally, and I think that's the best spot to start. But if you don't, that's up to you. What I'm looking at is I'm gonna kind of shape the front of this leg like a banana, so the inside curve of like a banana. I'm gonna take down her pastern and her knee, but I'm going to leave the front part of this forearm pretty big, and I'm going to try and leave her cannon pretty big too. But I will tip off some of that extra hair to make it look smoother. So we'll get in here, kind of take it down. And you'll have to do this pretty much every time, because every time you pull up this hair, it's going to take a different shape. And she's going to move a little bit on me, so she's going to be a bit of a hassle, but that's alright. You're going to take this knee off quite a bit, because that's all extra hair, and you don't want your heifer to have big joints. Big joints are not pretty on heifers, or pretty much, steers or bulls. If you have a show animal, you want their joints to be smooth and kind of fit in with the leg, not be bulky. So I take that down a little bit more. I'll trim it up from the side here. And then I'll come on the side of this heifer's leg and I'll just trim off a lot of this extra hair. Again, I'm going to go tighter on the knees because you don't want her knees to look really wide or bulky. So I'm going to leave this hair up here a little bit more flared out, so it kind of, makes it look like her arm's a little bit bigger, round, a little bit heavier muscled, right? And I'll trim off some on the back side of her leg. I didn't get much of it pulled up. She just doesn't have much there. But I'll trim it up, make it look a little bit smoother. Again, kind of smoothing out that joint, taking it up all the way in here. It should stand still. Take off a little bit of that elbow hair to kind of clean up her elbow a little bit. Don't want her elbow to stick out or look weird. So that's the rough process there.
I can see the difference.
Yeah, and I definitely trim off a little bit of that just to add to make it look smooth. No, she's not really cooperating super well. But hopefully you can see a little bit of the difference here. I've obviously taken off a lot of that extra hair that was up here, and I'd probably take it down a little bit more right in through there. But I mean, you can see all that kind of stuff that came off. So then
Yeah, I can see a big difference.
And when I'd probably come in here and just tip off this a little bit, and I can show you maybe what that does if she doesn't move around too much for me. So we'll just come through. And we'll tip this off, and what happens is this brings it down to the thicker hair down below. So it makes her arm look smoother once I get it all trimmed off. She is pretty upset because she's away from her friend. But hopefully you can see kind of the difference between what that looks like right there and what it maybe looks like up here, and you may, if you change the angle on your camera there, you'll see it. No. That just makes it look a little bit smoother, like if you're looking at it from the front end. We'll go ahead and do this back leg, and I'll try and do it quick because she's getting kind of frustrated. That's those darn show animals, I tell you. They're spoiled. So again, I'll trim up her joints, kind of take them down, smooth them out. And I'll run this up the front of her leg. And this one, you're not gonna necessarily do like a banana. You're gonna kind of follow a little bit of the natural curve of the leg here, but you're just gonna trim off the long hair to make it again look smooth and flow together really well. You're gonna leave a little bit more hair up here, and when you're getting into her hock, you're gonna take it down a little bit lower because you want her to have like a natural set to her hock there. You don't want it to stick out too far and like the hair stick out too far and make her look straight-legged or post-legged or anything like that, which is that's a negative in heifers because you want them to be structurally sound, and an animal that's post-legged may begin to break down as she gets older and is having calves. So you can kind of clip the angle of the hock into them if they've got enough hair. So if your animal's post-legged, you would probably want to be pretty good at that. And then you'll trim off this hair along the back side of her leg, and you're going to take that to a point right there at her hock, and that will make the back of her leg look smooth, like it's all, all comes together really well. And then the most important part on these back legs is you come in here and you trim down these hocks pretty close. I mean, you're going to take this almost to the skin, without obviously showing the skin. You're going to take this down and then flare it out as you come up. And, flaring it out kind of adds that pop to her muscles right in here. She was upset. And that's roughly how you shape in a back leg. You'll probably come through again and trim off a little bit of this extra long hair in here to make it kind of a smooth connection into her hock.
What's that you say?
She's very upset right now.
Anyway, if you get behind her, you can kind of see what I did. And this really isn't completely done. I'd want to trim that up a little bit better. But anyway, I took her hock down low there, and you can see I've got flared out up here. And if she was behaving better, I'd trim that up and shape it in more. But she's not really wanting to stand now. You want to trim off her back? Oh yeah, her belly. So you remember we pulled down this hair underneath here. What we're gonna do now is we'll kind of come through and just trim it off, not completely, not down, but just so it kind of it's at a good thickness that it might appear to be, might appear to add some depth to her. And it's not great on like this heifer we got here because her hair's a little bit thinner, but I know some folks out there will have some heifers with thicker hair that'll fill in really well. But when you step back from the animal, it'll kind of add a little bit of depth of body right in here through her flank and underneath her belly, and kind of make her have that swoop that where you're really looking for underneath her. So I trim off her back and tail head a little bit.
I like the terminology. That swoop. You want the cow to have that swoop to her belly.
Yes, you want her to have as deep of a belly as possible without looking, too, big bellied like she would have worms or something. You want her whole body to be square and as even as possible with the rest of her body. Like, you don't want her to be too big fronted, but then not big enough at the end to where she looks balanced. Yeah. So I'm gonna trim off her back that we had clipped, and of course, different heifers are gonna be completely different when you go to clip their back. I am just going to, because I know this heifer, I know that she doesn't really have a whole lot of problems with her back. But say you had a heifer that dipped right here and was really high right here, you would want to take this hair as close down as possible. That way, if she had a whole bunch of hair right here and she dipped, I would take this down really close. That way, this dip does not look like it dips as much, and that this doesn't look like it's as high. So I'm just actually going to even out and tip all of her hair on her back. That way her back's going to look straighter, and it's going to go tie into her neck a lot better. So I just tip. This is a process that you want to take your time, you want to go slow, because if she moves and you clip too much off, there's no going back and putting it back on. So I would rather you don't take as much off than take too much off, because you could always go back and take more off.
You can't put it back on.
Exactly. Especially right before a show, and then you would be really bummed about it. So I actually clip from, people clip in different ways. I actually start from the inside and just keep the bottom of my clippers on the top of her hair, and I just come and clip straight out. And that's just going to give her back, make her back look a lot flatter and straighter. But as you can see, I'm really not taking that much off, because she doesn't need that much to come off of her back.
And she's got a show in a week, so.
Yes. So on her, on her tail, we're gonna pull this up, and as you can see, she has quite a bit of hair right there. And then I am just going to, you want this to go straight across. So I'll start back here, and I'll just slowly take this. If she'll stand still, I'll do it. You're just gonna slowly take this off and make it as even as possible without there being any dips or any lines. So as you can see, that's a pretty straight line. Her back's pretty straight from that.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna come back here, and I'm gonna take this, and I'm just gonna tip the ends to make this straight up and down. And that's going to add that boxy shape to her tail head and her bottom from her back. So as you can see, like, she looks pretty square from the top of her back along that tail head. And of course, different heifers they could have either high tail heads or not enough hair on their tail head. There's just a lot of different things, and she luckily has a pretty good tail head, so that's what we're gonna do for that. And as you can see, her back's pretty straight. There's not really any issues with her back anymore. So
Looks good.
thank you. And we always we do fit their tails, so that's what I'm gonna show you how to do now. And also on her tail head, some people that are afraid to use clippers, which I completely understand, because that's how I started. They will use these scissors, which are not their diamond cut edge scissors. As you can see, they don't have a sharp point, but you can just take the scissors and you can clip, which I'm not going to do it because I already clipped, but you can just clip these and clip her tail head with these if you're too scared to use the clippers, because I know how that feels if you take too much hair off. You'll have to hold her tail. So for her tail, I use this brush. It's actually a human hair comb. Buy it at Walmart for like $2. So we do glue the tail. I always brush it out. And then this is always usually a girl's favorite part when they're fitting the heifer. But you're gonna take pieces up and you're going to fold it up and have somebody, not a whole bunch, but you're gonna take like that much from her tail. You're gonna pull it up and he's gonna hold that, and then you're gonna tease her hair. You just take little pieces, and you just brush it up. And you're gonna do this through her whole entire tail, because you're gonna try to make her tail look like it fits right into this area. That way her bottom looks more full and she looks square through her whole body. Because if it's just too big, you don't want it to be too big. If it's too big and it's just bouncing off her hocks, she's gonna look a little funny. So you just want to,
It'll be like a teardrop shape.
yes. But you just tease it all up. This is always the fun part. I always like this part. Once you get it all teased up, then you're gonna take the glue and you're gonna spray it. Not too much, but just enough. And then hold this again. And then I'm going to take it and I'm gonna shape it into a teardrop shape. So you just take your hand, you come around, and I always keep my fingers together, and you just take it into that teardrop shape.
That's amazing.
And then you're gonna let this hair down, and then this hair you're gonna brush out. That way it's gonna cover what you did. And then you're going to spray that again. And then you're gonna shape this and shape that around. And then as you can see, it fits right into that little hole that's right there. And so from the side, you're gonna look at her and her tail's down, and you can see it just helps to fill in that gap, and it's just feminine and just helps her to look more square.
Holy cow, that's beautiful. Awesome job.
So, and that's how you fit. And then I'm going to talk about after you show and you come back to the barn, and this glue does not come out with just soap. So you want to use Hair Savior or Hocus Pocus, and this is, you're going to just spray it on. I'm not going to do it right now, but you're just going to spray it all over her body. Take a scrub brush, scrub it real good wherever you have glue. And then you'll take her to the wash rag and you'll wash her with soap. That way it helps to get all that glue and stuff out. And then after you wash her with soap, we always use conditioner on them. We have a hydrator. We use this hydrator conditioner, and you just put that on them, and you brush it in and it stays on them for 10 minutes, I think, and then you rinse it off. But that just helps because this glue will take the nourishing stuff.
Well, what
nutrients and
happens
stuff
is
out of her hair.
it dries out like their skin wherever the glue is, and they'll scratch it on stuff. They'll essentially lose their hair wherever you put this glue on.
Oh, wow.
If you leave it on. So for applying like the soap and conditioner, we use these spray foamers. You can get them from like your farm and home stores or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you can see, we have put a show halter on her because we're going to show you guys what you do when you walk to the show ring. So you always want to have a show halter on your heifer, and I recommend putting show halter on after you feed them in the morning. That way it's on. Make sure it fits them. It does not need to be too high up on their eye or too low on their face. So you really need to fit the show halter to them before you go to a show, and really practice walking them around with that show halter before you go to your first show, because otherwise that way they can get used to their chain and everything like that. Yeah. So also right before we go into the show ring, we put this flare on them. It's a show ring sheen, and it'll make them shiny. And we put fly spray on them because some of these places, fly spray is an essential thing.
And that's just a really light oil. So
Yeah. So we'll put that on. Then we'll brush it in. Always brush the hair up. Don't brush where there's glue because then you're gonna mess up the places that we had fixed. So I just brushed their body. And as you can see, she looks shinier and she looks really pretty.
She does. She's gorgeous.
So now we're gonna show you guys what to do when you go into a show ring. Also for your own attire. Actually, I should use him as an example because he has kind of a show shirt on. Do not wear a normal t-shirt. You want a button-down t-shirt like that. You will tuck it in. Yeah, long sleeves. Good. Tuck it into your pants.
Nice pants. Probably a belt,
Boots.
preferably boots, or at least a decent show shoes. Just don't do like tennis shoes or flip flops or anything like that. Honestly, preferably not muck boots either.
Yeah.
Just there's something about wearing muck boots in a ring that makes it look like you don't know what's going on. So.
But the comb you want in your back pocket. I always put it in my right pocket that way because if a judge comes up to you and he touches your heifer, as soon as he leaves, he expects you to brush that heifer where he touched you, and that's part of showmanship. So always do that. Get a show stick that fits your height. I'm a shorter person, so I get a smaller show stick.
And it depends on the size of the heifer and all
Oh
that.
yeah,
So.
because you have to be able to reach those back legs. So we're gonna take her out and show you guys how we do this.
Take her out back.
Yeah, we'll take her back there. But before we leave to go to the show ring, we always have a bucket of water, and we give her a bucket of water. That way she drinks because that helps her be fuller. So we're actually going to take her back here.
Usually you'd want like a second person kind of walking with your heifer, moving her along. That way you're not struggling with her as you go through the barn. And the second person's usually in charge of like carrying any sort of extra grooming products with you, or getting the rope halter so your showman can go into the ring. But extra products, I just mean like paper towels. Like when your heifer poops, like on her way to the ring, person in charge of paper towels will wipe off her butt and the poop so she doesn't smear it with her tail. Anyway, so we're walking in the ring.
Show halter and stuff, make sure that your show lead is not too long to where it's dragging the ground, and make sure that you're not, folding it up. You just want the chain in your hand, and all heifers are different. Some heifers like for you to have your hand real close to their face, some heifers don't. She likes it halfway close to her face, but you're just gonna hold your hand like this. Some people show with their hands like this. I don't recommend that because I feel like you don't have that much control over her. So I always hold her like this, and that way you can pull her back and stop her. So I'm just going to show you. When you come into the ring, there will be a ring person that will tell you where to go. And so usually you just come in, they'll make a circle, and then they will tell you to pull in. And so if you're the first one in the ring, you will come and you will stop where they tell you to stop, and you just want to slowly walk her in, scratch her. You'll change your hands to where they're upside down, and you'll just slowly scratch her and pull her into that position where you want her feet. You want her front feet to be square and in line with each other, and her back feet, you want this foot to be closer to you and that foot on the outside to be back a little bit. But not too far back to where every heifer is going to have a different preference on how they look with their back legs. She always pretty much sets up how she's supposed to. But some heifers, that back foot will need to be back farther or closer together.
And that's part of training your heifer prior to the show day. This heifer didn't just, we didn't just walk her out here and she knew how to set up. This is something we've spent hours doing. Every time you washed her, you set her up before you let her back out into her pen. You set her up, So you're looking at least twice a day, probably 15-30 minutes. You don't have to burn her out on it, but just so she gets into the habit.
You want to hold their head up. That way it helps their back to be straight, and it just makes them look more feminine. So hold their head up. You don't want to be, you as a showman, you don't want to be right up next to them, but you don't want to be too far out either. So you just stand right in front of them, scratch them. Some of them prefer their belly to be scratched over their brisket. The judge will walk around. If the judge is coming up next to you, and she's kind of acting up. And heifers will do that, and you'll just take them out and walk them around, and bring them back in.
Make sure you make a good sized circle when you bring your heifer back in. I see it way too often. You have kids who need to circle their heifer, and they just try and get that heifer to whip around on her hind legs and do like
pivot like a horse.
Pivot like a horse or something. And cows they just do not do that well, and they will not come back in the lineup looking very pretty if you do that. So just take your time, make a good sized circle, and really try and make your heifer come back into line properly.
Just try to be as calm as possible. You want to be out there, you want to be having fun. Don't go out there looking, and if your heifer's acting up, it's okay. Other people's heifers act up all the time. It's okay. Just hold on, just have fun. This is all about having fun. It's not about, yeah, you want to go out there and win, but if you don't, that's okay. It's a learning experience, and every single time you go out there and you show, you're gonna learn. So just be confident in everything that you're doing, and really, I've learned so much from doing this. It's been a great experience, and all of these cattle people are so nice, and they will help you through everything. So if you have questions, ask them.
Ask 1,000 questions.
Exactly.
I think we've told these 4-H kids this 1,000,000 times. Ask 1,000 questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question.
Exactly. And there are going to be so many people that are going to go in there, and they're brand new at this, and everybody is willing to help you. So any questions you have, go up to anybody and ask them. They will help you, and if they don't know the answer, they will contact somebody and tell you to go to somebody that knows the answer, because they want you to do good. They want to help you. So I think that's all I have. You have anything to add?
I think we've covered most of the basics today of a show day, getting ready for the show on show day, and then what you should expect once you're in the ring. Again, like she mentioned, just have fun, ask questions, practice. Don't be afraid to do something. I know a lot of people don't do fitting because it looks hard, or they've never done it and they don't want their animal to look dumb because they'll be embarrassed. You will not get better at this kind of stuff if you do not practice it and you don't ask the questions on how to do it. So just get out there and have fun, guys.
Chris and Genesis, we can't thank you enough. I know we've got a Stoddard County Fair coming up soon. Some of the other kids, this COVID's kind of put a damper on a lot of fairs, but this is information that they can take with them for a long, long time. And we appreciate y'all so much taking the time to show us step by step what it takes to have a national champion.
But yeah, and if you guys have any questions, you could contact me. You could contact him on Facebook.
You can spell my last name.
Well,
or Genesis, just be watching this post on Stoddard County 4-H, and if you have a question, be sure and ask, and Genesis or Chris, either one, will be glad to answer that question.
Definitely.
So thank you guys. We appreciate you so much. Kudos to the Missouri 4-H group. We love training these kids to be able to one day do what you've done, Genesis.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you again, and we're out. Goodbye.
Thank